This pace has really gone up now, Sean. Phonak on one side, CSC on the other. Surprising to see them at the front. Maybe Martin Perdeguero is feeling good. Why the sudden injection of pace by CSC other than keeping Sastre out of trouble? This is a little bit more than keeping somebody out of trouble, Sean.
Yes, and there is also the Baleares riders there on the left, and some of the liquor gas riders, so there seem to be a number of them trying to do a number of teams and do the team trying to on the front here. But you know, I just think, and I'm looking at the running for today as well. It's, you know, it doesn't change direction that much, and that would be something you know you'd have to be watching for. If they did turn drastically direction, if they could get a side wind, but that doesn't look the case. So I'm surprised to see that it's so nervous up at the front. And you know, the teams that are riding CSC, for example, we haven't seen them in the sprint at all. Lombardi, of course, he didn't, you know, seem to get involved in any of the sprints up till now. So I don't know what the tactic is here for the moment.
Very strange indeed. They are really driving along on the front here.
The only one is that for the general classement, of course, with Sastre, you know, maybe they think Menchov is, you know, having problems, but, you know, I can't see, you know, any possibility of causing problems here for Menchov in this running today, because such a big bunch of riders, he's not going to have problems staying there. So that can't be for the general classement with Sastre. They can't be trying to do something here.
Well, I wonder if Lombardi's been given a chance to do something today. It's certainly sped up dramatically and really stringing the peloton out now towards Valladolid today. They've run from Leon, 162.5 kilometers. Look, nearly 70 kilometers an hour now, the pace at the front. Terrific driving by CSC. And rather surprisingly, now peeling off. And who is in behind the CSC guys? That's the question. Not seen Fassa coming to the front yet with 7 kilometers to go. They will wait a couple of kilometers before they really hit the front, but you can see them just sitting back there a little bit. Phonak were on the front as well, Sean. Do you think Perdeguero or somebody like that has a little bit of a zip in his legs today, feels okay? I can't see any reason why they were at the front earlier either.
No, it's also, you know, a surprising one to see them at the front, because again, a team like they don't have anybody really for the bunch sprint, and you know, it looks like they're certainly down to a bunch sprint today. So what they are doing up there, it's also baffling me a bit here, and it's a really funny tactic today. You know, normally we see the team mobile who will be taking it up at this moment or a bit further out the road, and they haven't been to the front at all for the moment. And of course the faster riders, they're going to wait and let the other teams do it and just take it up on the final 3 or 4 kilometers.
Well, Sastre is the guy for CSC who won't be at the front here, right at the front. He's not being protected. You can see there's just 3 riders at the front working hard. Nicky Sorensen, I think, is the guy third back. Still got almost a full complement of riders. Alan Johansson for the Dane is in there as well. I think André Perron is the guy sandwiched in the middle, but I'm not sure. 6 kilometers to go then. All sorts of bidon water bottles being shed, and they'll provide souvenirs for somebody. We often asked what happens to those. Well, people just pick them up and take them away as souvenirs. Fassa Bortolo just sitting in there, waiting behind everybody. Velocchi there in your shot, right at the back of the peloton now. Not doing any work at the front at all. And Roberto Heras will just have to make sure he's completely out of trouble, Sean, here. He'll have to have some riders around him to do that, because there's a lot of guys up the front now injecting a tremendous amount of pace, a dangerous amount of pace if you get caught out. And you can see Heras there just giving a nudge to one of the quick-step riders and following on the wheel of a Discovery man here, up towards the front, keeping himself out of trouble.
Yes, well, he's definitely got to do that. He's got to stay in the top 15 riders, 20 riders in this run-in, because, you know, if those gaps appear, he could lose a little bit of time. And the problem is for him, we see Velocchi there, and a number of his riders wouldn't really fancy this sort of big group running into the finish.
On the right-hand side of your screen, there, you will see that the Fassa Bortolo guys are in a line now. Fabio Baldato is the guy at the front. He's the captain on the road. You can tell him by his little goatee beard. Looking behind him, they're all strung out in a line. When we get a helicopter shot, there you'll see They were all sandwiched down in the peloton. They've now worked their way towards the front. You can see where Alessandro Petacchi is, because if you don't know who he is, by the way, Eric Zabel in the pink is right on his wheel. Again, a couple of, I think it's that Sonia Deval or Phonak riders. I can't tell from this overhead shot. Looks like Sonia Deval riders coming towards the front on the right-hand side of the shot there.
Liquigas.
Was it Liquigas?
Yes.
Well, Liquigas have Marco Zenotti as their named sprinter. Here we go, running in now. Last few kilometers. That's a nasty little corner, and somebody's going to miss it. I hope nobody goes down. All avoiding the trouble there. Very tight indeed, considering how wide that road is, and that's a good job of Fassa at the front there. They've kept themselves completely out of trouble, Sean.
Yes, well, this is the moment in the last number of kilometres. You have to be on the front with the team, and to keep your sprinter, you know, safe up there and not having to run into any problems. And, you know, by having 5 or 6 riders set the pace at this moment, it's a perfect situation once again for Petacchi.
Well, they're less so from the Giro, obviously, because they had a corner very similar to that in the Giro where they all ran off the road. They were all going just too fast, the Fassa guys. A little bit of embarrassment, but so easy to do, isn't it, Sean, that if the guy at the front runs wide, everybody else is in their slipstream, just follow them.
Yes, well, of course, some of the runs, then, you know, you get surprised by a corner and it's tighter than that you calculate for, and we see that in the Giro, but that does happen, and, you know, it's something we've seen in tours over the years. But when you consider the speed that those riders are going, and in the Giro that was very close to the finish, they would be going at 55-60 km per hour, and, you know, if one of them just calculates a bit over, well, then he can take a lot of the others out with him when he runs out of the corner, runs out of road.
Well, once again, I must apologise for the shots off the back of the motorcycle. Really, really bumpy. You couldn't see much of who was in there, except that the Fassa Bortolo guys are controlling into the front. That is, of course, why the directors cut to this helicopter shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Fassa Bortolo guys on the left-hand side. We must assume the 2 guys on the right-hand side are still Liquigas men. I think Big Magnus Backstead was the guy in the front, driving it along for Zenotti, but now we've got some of the De Vitamon Lotto team coming in. There's Leon Van Bon in there as well. Tom Steele's no longer there. Steels has gone home. He had a very nasty crash 2 or 3 days ago in the wet, and he's been sent back to Belgium. The Bouygues Telecom rider in there is probably Sebastian Chavanel, though he's off by himself now. There's nobody there, and it just looks like a clear run out for Fassa Bortolo at the moment, Sean, with just Eric Zabel in the wheel and the 2 Liquigas guys coming up on the right-hand side again.
Yes, it's the problem, you know, when you have 2 riders like the Liquigas riders, for example. One rider is just trying to keep the other rider up there, and you have, you know, 4 or 5 of a team, as Fassa are doing here, riding in the front and riding close to 60 km per hour. It's so difficult to move up at this stage, and, you know, we see the riders just fighting for the wheel of Petacchi at the moment, and the Zabel is in there, and the Liquigas riders trying to get up and get in on the wheel as well. But of course, the Zabel has always been, you know, very successful in holding on to the wheel of Petacchi in these final kilometres.
Extremely successful, probably the most successful rider to do that. I think the Liquigas sprinter who's just tucked in behind Eric Zabel is Marco Zenotti. Just looking over the top shot. Somebody's gone on the far right-hand side. That's a long way out. Somebody's decided to go for a break and try and disrupt the rhythm of the train. Well, that's an interesting option of doing it. They've gone with under a kilometre to go. The guy from Lampre has gone out the front, giving it absolutely everything, and a Cofidis rider behind him as well. But Fassa are going to eat them up, I think, again. This is interesting tactics, Sean.
Yes, it's we're on a bit of a drag here, of course, and it's the only way that they're going to have any chance of, you know, upsetting the train of the Fassa riders and try and beat Petacchi. And, you know, we see that bit of a drag there, a perfect opportunity for anybody who feels strong to have a go, but I don't think they will be to hold on.
Well, we've got a Gerolsteiner rider at the front now. Is this Hasselbacher? He's got a fair old gap with about 300 metres to go. I don't think they're going to catch him, Sean. I really don't think they're going to catch him. They're going to try and eat him up, but he's very, very close to the line. He's still giving it absolutely everything. I think it's René Hasselbacher. I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I'll have to hold my hand up and say that that's very difficult to spot who that is. And just drying up. Is he going to make it?
No.
Oh, Petacchi's just come in on him. Paolo Bettini in his wheel. Then I think it's Perdeguero just behind that. And Samuel Sanchez on the far right-hand side, who could tell? Now, That is Paolo Bettini leading it out now, with Pataki still stuck in there about 1, 2, 3, 4 back, with Eric Zabel on his wheel. Bettini still driving really hard for the line. Pataki's coming on the right-hand side of your screen. Zabel is boxed in. Here comes Joaquim Rodriguez around the outside. Pataki's going to go try past. Oh, it's Paolo Bettini. Bettini takes the victory. Held on. Pataki maybe a little bit too far back, but that's a long drag, and that looked very difficult finish, Sean.
Yes, it was a difficult finish, and in our route book actually I did not say that there was, you know, that much of a drag to the finish, and it seemed to be very hurting there when we see the riders attacking. I think it hurt a lot of riders, and Pataki was in about 4th position, a bit too far off, but seemed to be suffering quite a lot in the last meters.
Paolo Bettini taking the victory by about a wheel and a half, I think. I think the rider from Gerolsteiner could have been Hasselbacher, just died because he went so early. Let's have a look at it again. Bettini's leading out at this point. Per de Guerro, I think it is, on the left-hand side for Phonak. Pataki giving it everything he possibly can. Zabel knows he's boxed in and can't do anything. Joaquim Rodriguez coming around the outside. Live pictures here then from stage 17 of the Vuelta a España. We're running from El Espanar to La Granja de San Ildefonso. 165.5, just a shade over kilometers. There are 4 climbs today, a 3rd category climb at excuse me. It's early, I'll get better. The Alto de Los Angeles de San Rafael, a 3rd category climb. They got the Navacerrada twice, once after 55 kilometers. That's already been passed, and they go up it again just 20 kilometers from the end, and that is what will be the big deciding factor in today's race. The Puerto de Navacerrada at 143.2 kilometers. Sandwiched between the two, there's the Puerto de Mochera, which is a 2nd category climb at 93.3 kilometers. Also 3 sprints today, 2 of which have already been contested. And they've just about reached the breakaway riders, and there is a breakaway, we'll run down those in a minute, have reached the 3rd of the sprints today at Manzanares. The first one was at Revenga, and the 2nd at La Pradera. Alessandro Pataki taking both the maximum points on those 2 sprints. Followed in the first instance by Eladio Jimenez and then Maranzano. And in the 2nd sprint, Martin Elmiger and Rick Verbrugge going over in 3rd place. We'll talk about Rick Verbrugge at some point today, because he's been in and out of the news, not for what he's doing, but what he isn't doing in the future. And we'll have a chat about those, as the Belgian team has been now selected for the World Championships coming up. And it'll be live on Eurosport in just about 2 weeks' time, or a week and a half, in fact. Well, the big story of today is that a group of 13 riders went away. Or at least there were more than that to start with, 24, and it got whittled down to 13 riders. That's now been swelled by a number of other riders, and they've established a lead of 1 minute and 12 seconds over the peloton. I'll run you through the original 13, and I think Sean's got the gen on the guys who've joined since then. It was David Blanco of Comunicat Valenciana, Juan Horach of Illes Balears, Koos Muranauta of De Vitamon Lotto, Aitor Gonzalez of Uescatel, Stein de Volda of Discovery Channel, Pablo Lastras of Illes Balears, Gilberto Simoni from Lampre, Eladio Jimenez from Comunicat Valenciana, so the 2nd of those riders from that team. And then there was a 3rd as well in Javier Rodriguez. Constantino Zabalia from Sonia Deval was in the group. David Lopez of Huescatel, so at least Aitor Gonzalez had somebody with him. And that man, Rick Verbrugge. That was the original 13 who established a breakaway and slowly rode away over the first ascent of the Navacerrada. And they've come over the Puerto de Mochera as well, and now through the final sprint of the day. And a few very big names have joined this group, Sean. It's getting quite an interesting breakaway.
Yes, it certainly is. As we see here, in the bunch is also very active attacking here from Sastre, but it's been an active day, and we see there we have a Comunidad de Valenciana rider up front, number 45, Carlos Garcia Quesada, and at 54 seconds we have that group of Manchego, Santos Gonzalez, Inigo Cuesta, Eta Gonzalez, Stein de Volder, Kurs Moorhout and Eladio Jimenez, and the bunch is down at 1:06 was the last time check we have, so a lot of action here, and you don't think this breakaway is we can say it's going to go to the finish today, because the bunch is very active, and with Manchego up there, of course, that's the reason we see Sastre going in the attack, because he's wide, but he's placed in the general classement, of course.
Yeah, Mancebo managed to bridge the gap across, didn't he? And they've got over a minute on the bunch so far. Carlos Sastre is a little bit concerned. He's coming out of the bunch now. You notice the guy wearing the combined competition jersey is Denis Menchov. He's in there as well, and Roberto Heras has to react just in case. He's got to cover himself. It's the last really lumpy day in the Vuelta a España, and all the big names are having to react here. You've also got Oscar Sevilla on the front here for T-Mobile. Very active. They're all looking at each other, these guys. They want to cover each other, but they can't let Mancebo go too far up the road. He's a real fighter. He's only got a minute, but that'll certainly pull back Carlos Sastre.
Yes, well, I think Sastre is a bit too close for comfort. He's up there at third position in the general classement at 4:50, and of course Menchov, is at 4:30, so Menchov is not going to let him to go away, because in the time trial we've seen Sastre doing some very good rides, so he's a real danger man for the podium position for Menchov, and he's definitely going to be chased down, where Manchego is a bit further down. He's 6:45 down in fourth place, so he's been allowed a bit more rope, as they say, but not a huge amount, because we see the gap there is not grown to any great advantage, and I don't think he's going to stay away to the finish.
Well, Francisco Mancebo up the front is giving it a go at least. He's 1:55 down on Carlos Sastre. That is the gap, 1:23. It's eking out very slightly. 1:23 from Carlos Garcia Quesada up the front to Mancebo, and then 42 back to the peloton. So they're keeping Mancebo under control, but Garcia Quesada is having a go. Remember, he was at 8:02 this morning, so that's 1:15 or 2:17 down on Francisco Mancebo. So if this man continues to ride very hard indeed, I guess Mancebo is going to have to watch his own laurels as well.
Yes, well, certainly that is, I think the problem for Manchego, because with Garcia Quesada up there, and he's, as you said, just a little further down the general in fifth position. Manchego had to react, and that's the reason he's went up the road, because he knows that he's not going to be allowed away by Menchov, and of course the other ones in the general, Sastre and Heras, of course, because he's a danger man. If you allow him to take an advantage, he could pull it out before the finish. So Heras is going to chase, and Menchov, but of course Manchego having to chase because of this man up front.
Carlos Garcia Quesada then at the head of the race at the moment. Francisco Mancebo trying to pull away from the other breakaway ride. He's got Santos Gonzalez with him. This is a fascinating day. 165 kilometers worth of racing, and they have two first category climbs. The Navacerrada is a difficult climb, and they pass over it twice. They started off the day with the first climb of Alto de Los Angeles de San Rafael at 12 kilometers into the race. Then two intermediate sprints, both won by Alessandro Petacchi. And then the first ascent of the Puerto de Navacerrada at 55.2 kilometers. This is the rest of the breakaway group that is now being ridden away from by Francisco Mancebo. Aitor Gonzalez is in there. He's the first of the two Euskaltel riders in there, and there's another Euskaltel rider with him. Then they went over the Puerto de Mochera at 93.3 kilometers, and then back over the Puerto de Navacerrada, which is only 20 kilometers from the end. Well, Roberto Heras is having to cover everybody. Denis Menchov and Carlos Sastre all riding together. Still a lot of vested interest in this. Sastre will not want Mancebo to get any further up the road than he is already. And 45 seconds was the last time gap that we had. He is 1:55 behind Carlos Sastre, so lots of action still to come here in the Vuelta a España. Anybody who thinks that the race is over, it may be particularly unassailable, or reasonably unassailable, for anybody to catch Roberto Heras now, but it's certainly not over for everybody else, Sean, is it? It's been a lively race all the way through the last week. It's one of those races, isn't it, the Vuelta? It's long stretches of open plains that nothing happens. Maybe you get a long breakaway that's punctuated by these incredible mountain stages where the whole thing blows to pieces.
Yes, well, of course, we see that yesterday we had that, you know, a long day, which was in a day, you know, nothing going to happen really. The only danger was, as we said yesterday, if it was a very windy day, it could be a really dangerous one for the riders, and it would, you know, break the bunch into pieces with the echelons. But that wasn't the case yesterday, so a pretty easy day for everybody. But today, of course, is quite a lumpy day, and the general classement, as you go further down, you know, we see here as have quite a big advantage, 4:30 over Menchov, but the rest of the riders are still fighting for their places, and the riders in the top half dozen, the general classement, are definitely fighting here, because we see Menchov, you know, he's after Cuesta here, because you know, he's just a place down in 5th on the general classement, and he doesn't want to lose a place to him, so he's, you know, prepared to take up the chase here, and that's, you know, put the pace up in the bunch, as we see there. Menchov, Sastre, Heras, they're all in the front of the bunch there, and they're riding, because they're not going to allow Menchov, you know, to pull out an advantage here and maybe creep up into a dangerous position in the general classement. And in the times, well, of course, Menchov can defend his place if he moves up further in the general classement and, you know, knocks Sastre, for example, out of the third position. Well, then he could, you know, be a problem there, and difficult to get him out of that position in the time trial, because he can't put in a very good time trial.
Yeah, he's not a bad time trialist at all, is he, Mancebo? And this then is the situation just behind these three riders. You can see, I'm not sure who the teammate is. It's probably Scarponi for Roberto Heras. Denis Menchov coming to the front now, doing a bit of work just behind those two. Little Maurizio Ardila from Divitamon Lotto, wearing 71, and the big guy from Comunica, there is Ardila. Big guy from Comunica Valenciana is Ruben Platha, hanging on to the coattails of Roberto Heras' teammates at the moment, but Carlos Garcia Quesada really giving it everything he can. Gap slowly increasing, but not tremendously. 140, and the leaders group, including Mancebo and Sastre, managing to peg back Mancebo quite happily at the moment. Only 45 seconds the gap. Let's just run down where they were this morning. It'll give you some idea of why these guys are chasing in the way they are. Roberto Heras leading this morning. It was 4 minutes and 30 seconds back to Denis Menchov, but then really that's where the action starts. Between Denis Menchov and Carlos Sastre, there's only a 20-second gap, so Menchov does not want Sastre to get away. Equally, Sastre does not want Francisco Mancebo to get away. He's at 6:45 overall, Mancebo, but that means there's only a gap of 1 minute and 55 seconds between Carlos Sastre and Francisco Mancebo. Carlos Garcia Quesada, the guy you could see on your screen there, is 8:02 overall. But when you compare him to the next guy up the order, Francisco Mancebo, there's only a 2 minute and 17-second gap. This guy's doing a very good ride, Sean. He's eating into Mancebo with every pedal stroke at the moment.
Yes, he certainly is, and you know, we see in that group of Menchov and Santos Gonzalez, they're, you know, riding quite strong for quite a long time, and he's still just pulling away slowly, as you said, but you know, still you know, pulling out the seconds, and it's a great ride by him, because you know, to be able to do that, and we see Menchov there, he was really, you know, putting on the pressure here, as we see just once again, you know, really going to work at it hard here. So a very good ride by Quesada, and of course then we see at the further down the bunch, of course, we see Menchov riding with Sastre, and Heras, you know, prepared to sit down, because he's not too worried about this one for the moment. It's Menchov and Sastre starting to worry, it seems, at this moment.
This is the last time, or the second time of asking. They're going up the Puerto de Navacerrada, the first category climb, and there is the top. He's going to take the maximum points over the top. 16 points for this climb, the first category climb here for Carlos Garcia Quesada. But the most interesting thing is that clock in the right-hand corner of that box there, graphics box. Taking the jersey up, it's going to be a little bit chilly on the downside. It's quite warm today, approaching 30 degrees. Now we get the clock starting. Great ride by this man up this slope today. How much can he eke out that advantage on the way down? He's a pretty good descender, Garcia Quesada. And Menchov and Santos Gonzalez. Santos Gonzalez has done nothing at all. Behind him, Menchov being forced to do all the work. 45 seconds was the gap between Menchov and the Sastre Menchov Heras group. We'll get the stopwatch on that as soon as we go over the top with Francisco Menchov. Immensely impressive, the whole of the Comunicat Valenciana team throughout this Vuelta, Sean. Vicente Belda has brought them here as another great team. They didn't make the Pro Tour, which of course needs financial guarantees and so on. He was very piqued about that. The Kelme team, as it used to be, was the oldest single-sponsored team in professional cycling. It's sad for Belda, but what a great retort to his critics that he's provided in this Vuelta a España.
Yes, well, definitely they have been doing some great rides, and being there in the important days, quite up there with a number of riders, not only just one rider from the Comunidad Valenciano team. We've seen quite a lot of them perform, and of course the team classification, their leaders on that, and they're ahead of Liberty Seguros, of course. Liberty Seguros are doing a lot of work, but still a very strong team, and they're 25 minutes behind. So it just tells you how strong and how much depth the team of Belda is in this race.
Garcia Quesada has done a fabulous job up here against one of the best climbers in the world. Look at this, 1 minute 38.40, 1:40 is the gap between Garcia Quesada and Menchov, who's gone over the top. I've got the stopwatch on where these guys are coming in as well. Remember, Garcia Quesada needs to make up 1:56. He was 1:55 behind. He needs to make up 1:56. He needs to make up 2:17, but he's making a pretty good inroad into that. 1:56 is the time that Menchov needs to make up on Carlos Sastre. And I can tell you he's not doing that at the moment. It's just coming up to 30 seconds now. And Sastre is going to follow Denis Menchov over the top. And he's not lost any more time at all. 44 seconds. So he's kept Menchov within sight and within a comfortable margin. Needed 1:56, or needs 1:56 Menchov. Well, we're going down the descent of the Navacerrada. We're going to take a short commercial break. I'm sorry for that. Has to be done. Don't go anywhere. Join us again shortly. Live pictures here on the descent of the Navacerrada. They are around 18 kilometers now from the finish. The gap between Garcia Quesada and Menchov is 1 minute and 30 seconds. Menchov pulling away from Santos Gonzalez here. He is in the top right-hand side of your screen. That's Carlos Garcia Quesada on the top left, and behind them, still further back, a 39-second gap down to the riders at the bottom you can see on your screen, including Denis Menchov, Roberto Heras, and Carlos Sastre. They have Ruben Plata for company in there as well. Oh, you can hear the tyre screech from the motorcycles, and it's true, Sean, isn't it? These guys on their bikes can descend much quicker in many cases than the motorcycles and the cars who are following them.
Yes, certainly do, and we've seen it on a lot of descents where the riders catch up with the motorbikes, which are just out ahead, and if they don't pull further ahead before they come to the corners, well, then the riders come flying by, and we've seen that many a time. And it's amazing, like we see Menchov there, he was doing 80 kilometers an hour just a bit earlier on, and we see Santos Gonzalez having really problems to follow in the wheel. It's amazing the speed he can get up to, and to consider they can go faster around the corners than the motorbikes with such a narrow tyre. But that is, the bike, the handling, I suppose, is very important. But the bikes have very good road holding as well.
Absolutely. A lot of these guys running clinchers these days, as well as tubulars. A lot of the tyres, like the Michelin Pro 2 grips that are being run by people like Bouygues Telecom, have dual compounds, much softer tyre rubber on the outside than the inside, allowing people like Francisco Menchov to do that. And you can hear the squeal of tyres for the motorcycle as they go around the corner. That's pretty scary, I can tell you now. Well, we've had cause to complain in many occasions of the standard of motorcycle coverage this year in the Vuelta, but believe me, this is not easy. Trying to go down at this sort of rate. 48 seconds, the gap has eked out a little bit. Menchov is really descending pretty quickly indeed. Garcia Quesada is a very good descender and is up ahead of Mancebo, and it's him he's trying to limit. 2:17 the gap between them on the GC, and he wants to keep that place, Mancebo. He's really giving it everything. He's been running very, very wide indeed on some of the exits to the corners. Clip the apex, run across the road if necessary. He's got to be careful though, Sean, isn't he? He can't give it absolutely everything, because if he does, he runs the risk of running just a little bit too wide, clipping something, and ending up in a big heap on the floor.
Well, of course, I think the riders, this is a climb that they would know, and you know, they've been up it a number of times in the tour here, so a lot of the riders would know it very well, and you can make very good time when you know the descent.
This is, of course, the other battle that's been going on today. Alessandro Petacchi taking 2 of the sprints today at Revenga and La Pradera, taking his total up to 132 points. Roberto Heras has got so many points because he finishes at the top of mountains as opposed to Alessandro Petacchi. So Petacchi trying to eat away into those few remaining points that keep him away from the points jersey. Remember, it's blue with little yellow fishes on. Oh, they really are going pretty quickly at this. 15k to go. And Ruben Plata are being dropped off the back. Carlos Garcia Quesada has had a fabulous descent, and so is Francisco Mancebo. He's at the 12k point. Let's see what the gap is. He started the clock. We're concerned about the gap between this guy here and Francisco Mancebo. Well, I think that probably answers the question, Sean, that Mancebo just taking it a little tiny bit easier. He was taking quite a few risks, I think, trying to keep in contact with Carlos Garcia Quesada, and Santos Gonzalez has managed to get back up onto his wheel again.
Yes, well, of course, we see, you know, Manchego, who's descending very, very fast at 80 k's an hour, which is, you know, an unbelievable speed. But Santos Gonzalez just kept him at the distance, and sometimes the rider can do that. You leave the rider take, you know, about 10 or 15 metres, and you can see the line he's taken, and you can calculate from that, you know, how severe the corner is. And it's you know, it's a good thing to have somebody out there doing that for you when you're leading, and you know, down, and you have nobody in front of you. Sometimes you can, you know, underestimate a corner and maybe come with too much speed in it, and then run into problems, as you said. But they both have definitely done a good job. But we see the group there of Heras and Menchov. On the last shot I couldn't see, but it looked like Menchov was really pulling along on the front, and we see Plaza really having problems to stay in the wheel and losing quite a bit. And Ardila also was, you know, on the rear there, but he's just about hanging in that group of 6 riders, which contains Menchov, Sastre and Heras.
He's done a good job at Francisco Mancebo. He's cut, doesn't sound like a lot, but he's cut 6 seconds back from the top of the climb onto the 12k to go banner by Mancebo. 6 seconds is a lot when you're descending. If you're both going flat out, remember, every second counts for this man. 2 minutes and 17 seconds was the gap between Mancebo and Carlos Garcia Quesada, who's further up the road. The stopwatch is on, I can tell you, between Mancebo and the Heras group. If we can go back to that shot, I'm sure the director will cut us back to the 12-kilometer banner to see what the gap was. It was 39 seconds when they went over the top. And here they come again. Well, it's about 42 seconds now, so they haven't lost too much. We have to take another short commercial break. All the favourites have gone under the 12-kilometer banner. We'll be back with you very shortly. A really fascinating stage 17 unfolding in front of us here. Carlos Garcia Quesada is up the road. He has a 1 minute and 20-odd second advantage over this man, Francisco Mancebo. Garcia Quesada is really the guy who's driving everything behind this, because Garcia Quesada has to make up 2 minutes and 18 seconds to move above Francisco Mancebo into 4th on general classification. Mancebo is dutifully charging after him with Santi Gonzalez behind him, but in the process, of course, has caused a little bit of concern, not quite panic, but a little bit of concern for Carlos Sastre, Denis Menchov et al. Behind, and they've started chasing as well, trying to peg him back to about 45-50 seconds. And maybe a little bit of help for Carlos Sastre now. Sean, it looks like somebody's got across to the group from CSC.
as I said, is not going to. It doesn't seem to be growing around 40, 45 seconds at the moment.
Manuel Calvente then moving across to get to the group with Carlos Sastre. It's all looking pretty static at the moment. They've come under the 9 kilometre to go banner. 8 kilometres now for the chasing group of Sastre, Menchov, Roberto Heras, Ruben Plaza is in there as well. Maurizio Ardila is the little guy from the Vitamon Lotto, stuck on the back there. Manuel Calvente, the Spanish rider for CSC, is in there to help Carlos Sastre. Just ahead, on the top right-hand side of your screen at the moment, you can see Francisco Mancebo and Santos Gonzalez of Fonac. Mancebo really driving things along. There's no real need for Gonzalez to do any work. It's all down to Francisco Mancebo. And Carlos Garcia Quesada in the top left of your screen, giving it absolutely everything. He's truly committed, isn't he? Good move by Garcia Quesada here.
Yes, well, certainly a very good move, because you know, the stage victory, of course, he's going for that, and you know, it looks certain now that he's going to take it. So you know, he's another stage victory for the team. You know, very important and a very good stage to win. And we see Manchebo, of course, here he's riding, trying to pull back time on Sastre. Of course, he's riding for the general classement. But we also have a number of riders. We must not forget that were with Manchebo and Gonzalez. You know, we had Cuesta there, we had Data Gonzalez, Stein de Volder from Discovery, Moorhout from Lorshow, Eladio Jimenez also from Comunidad Valenciano. So quite a number of riders in between, but we're not getting any shots of those because we're focusing more on the group of Heras, Menchov and Sastre, of course.
Yeah, I think they're just, are they sandwiched in between? I think just stuck behind them, aren't they, a little bit? But they might well get together on this descent here. Oscar Sevilla tacking onto the back. He was with them on the ascent of the Navacerrada for the second time, and now rejoining them. Just a little bit of a mechanical. Maybe the brake caliper just rubbing against the rim very slightly. There is Vincenti Belda, director sportif of Comunica Valenciana, just hanging out the window and having a chat to his rider, Carlos Garcia Quesada. He's had a great Vuelta a España. Garcia Quesada, who was very active last year. I'm amazed that these directors can ever... There aren't more crashes than there are. There were a couple of bangs and scrapes on the Tour de France, and they do race around in these things, don't they, Sean?
Yes, well, they certainly do, of course, on the descents and that. They take a lot of risks, the director sportifs with the cars, because, as we mentioned earlier, the riders, they go down at a very fast rate, and we're just talking about the motorbikes. They have problems staying ahead of the riders, and you can imagine the cars behind, the difficulty they have to, for the groups coming down. But we see Belda there talking to Carlos Garcia Quesada. He was just saying to him, take it a bit easy, no big risk now, because it's safe, and the stage victory is what we're looking for.
Stage victories indeed. Joaquim Rodriguez took points on the first climb of the day to increase his place over Eladio Jimenez, who's gone above Roberto Heras now, which is good news for Jimenez. And for Belda, of course, it's another Comunica Valenciana rider. Denis Menchov on 72 points, Francisco Mancebo on 65, and Carlos Garcia Quesada just showing his great all-round performance this year. He's in 6th place overall in the climbers' standings. Well, if you were Francisco Mancebo in this situation, Sean, would you be doing this? Would you be cajoling, asking, bullying, shouting at Santos Gonzalez to come through and do some work for you, or is he just accepted that he's going to have to do it all himself?
Well, I think Santos Gonzalez is, doing quite a bit there. He's coming through quite a number of times, and when it's a little bit flatter, he seems to be, doing the pace, pulling on the front with Manchebo. So I don't think, there's any need for him to start shouting. He's doing his bit. He's doing as much as he can, and of course, Gonzalez hasn't much to ride for, because he's further down, as you see, 10th in the general at over 14 minutes down. So it's up to Manchebo really. He's got the job really to try and pull out as much time as possible. But Manchebo is he's in a difficult position at the moment, because he knows he's not going to pull enough out, but he has to continue on and just keep working at it and see what he can pull out today, because also tomorrow is another day which there's quite a number of climbs, so he could maybe pull another bit back tomorrow, and you never know before the time, so he could get in a position where he could be fighting for a place on the podium.
Indeed. I'm not sure, personally, I'm not sure that Santos Gonzalez He's doing a huge amount. He's coming through now, but certainly, as you say, I mean, all the emphasis has got to be on Mancebo to do the work. He's coming through and doing a weedy bit, but as you say, probably doing as much as he possibly can. Mancebo, a very strong rider, a very good all-rounder. Everybody thinks of him as a climber, but as you pointed out, Sean, he can certainly time trial.
Yes, he certainly can. Of course, time trial, we've seen that he's able to defend very well when he's in a position, and we've seen him in the Tour of France and also in the Tour of Spain. He can defend these plates when he's you know, down to the final time trial. And I think this race he had a number of difficult days to Lagos to Covadonga. He lost a bit of time and a number of the mountain top finishes, but he's certainly, I think, back better now, because you know, to get away from the other big favourites is not easy. They're not going to allow you to get away easy, and I think, you know, he's quite strong and back in better condition than he was for a number of days past.
Mancebo back on the front. The two of them are really trying hard to reel in Carlos Garcia Quesada. It's an impressive ride by the Comunica Valenciana rider, though, running today into La Granja de San Ildefonso. Tomorrow, by the way, we are at Avila, which is my personal picturesque favourite of the Vuelta. Avila, the walled city of Avila, which is a marvellous, marvellous place to have a finish, and there'll bound to be a breakaway. Garcia Acosta's won there before. He would like to do something. Lots of cobblestones to go over, and they go under the entrance gate to Avila, and it is a really marvellous finish. Viewers of British Eurosport will be able to see, we've got a special on British Eurosport from Francisco Mancebo and Charlie Vegelius tomorrow, but Francisco Mancebo, of course, because he comes from Avila and that area, so don't miss that if you're on British Eurosport watching from the UK. Francisco Mancebo special tomorrow, just while Carlos Garcia Quesada continues to plough on his way. And don't forget, the day after Avila, a special on Roberto Heras and Aitor Gonzalez. That should be interesting. I'm sure the questions will be asked, why haven't you done anything, Aitor? But we will have those specials on British Eurosport as well. And if you're watching British Eurosport today, UCI presidential candidate Pat McQuaid on after the programme, so don't go anywhere. You know, it's all been happening at the UCI. We've been discussing it. It's all been up in the air, and lots of controversy, and I'm sure Pat McQuaid will have something to say about that. Oh dear, oh dear. It's not what he wants, isn't it? I wonder what will happen to everybody else as they get there.
Yes, it was a little bit of confusion there for Carlos Garcia Quesada, because it's the diversion maybe for the cars that maybe are going to go there, but you know, there was a road leading straight on as well, and a bit confusing there, and he was, you know, pointing to whoever the marshal was there. He wasn't giving any, you know, directions to him, which he should be pointing the direction the rider should be going, and it could have cost him a bit of time there if he went straight on. And interesting now to see if he will, you know, react more when the other riders are coming along, Manchego and Gonzalez, for example.
Couple of seconds then potentially lost by Carlos Garcia Quesada. He's really given it absolutely everything today. This man has attacked on the slopes of the Navacerrada for the second time, and he's going to take a fine victory today. But the thing is, what is going to be the gap between Garcia Quesada and Mancebo? I think he's going to be safe today, but Garcia Quesada riding himself further up in terms of time, closer to Francisco Mancebo. Will he do anything again tomorrow? Carlos Garcia Quesada then from Comunica Valenciana, and they've had a marvellous Vuelta a España. He's got his lucky pendant in his mouth. There he is, coming up to the line. They've been present in every single break. Marvellous victory. And Vicente Belda and Garcia Quesada will be extremely happy with that. Look at the clock on the left-hand side there at the bottom. As the celebrations go on for this man, we need to see what the gap is. 2:18 is what he needed to pull out to go above Mancebo. He's certainly not going to do that. Nowhere near. He got out about 1 minute and 30 seconds at one time, but good concerted riding by these two. A little bit of a mix-up. Mancebo's done a very good job, Sean, in limiting his losses against Garcia Quesada today. 1 minute 30 was what it got up to, and it's going to be nowhere near the minute mark.
No, it's certainly not. It's come down a lot in the last 10 kilometres, and Menchov has done a very good job with the help, of course, of Santos Gonzalez, as we see it now, 47 seconds lost. But the interesting one for Menchov, how much can he pull out of Sastre, for example, because today is a day when he could pull back 20, 30 seconds, but there's also stages to come. Tomorrow's stage, difficult one again, and if he's in really good shape, and Sastre maybe suffering a bit, and the other big favourites, he could pull out another bit of time tomorrow and get himself in a better fighting position for the podium as we go to the final time trial on Saturday.
1:55 was the gap, so you need to make 1 minute and 56 seconds up. I've got the stopwatch on it. It's 35 seconds so far. They're all sprinting up for fourth place, sorry, Oscar Sevilla, and then Lopez, Ardila, just on the left-hand side of your screen. Sastre's in the middle at the back there, you could see, next to Menchov, and Ruben Plata comes over just behind Ardila. Well, do you know, I think it's closer to 55 seconds, Sean, than it was the 30 seconds he had last time. A shade under. Neil Stevens there from Liberty Seguros. They seem to have buried the hatchet for a little bit. I wonder how long it'll be before they start talking to each other again. Maybe they realise that Garcia Acosta is creeping up on them, and that's the last thing they want. Well, Avila is where they're finishing today, and as Sean said, 2 kilometres uphill on the cobbles, then through the gates, and another dig up on the cobbles to the finish today. Well, for once, Sean, I think we are going to get a breakaway that succeeds. We haven't had a single breakaway that's made it through to the end here in the Vuelta. And for once, we're going to get 2 riders who are going to stay away from everybody. The peloton not in the slightest bit bothered about chasing things today, and who could blame them? The only man who could catch these 2, theoretically, before they get into the finish at Avila today, is Vicente Garcia Acosta. Victory for him in Avila was way back in 2002 now. Although he's been plugging away to try and cross that gap, they've both gone past him, these riders. 17 seconds was the last time check we had. He's got nobody to help him, and it's going to be very tough when he gets there.
Yes, unfortunately the finish today is the big problem with the uphill. If it was a flat run in when he come back let's say to the 2 leaders, Rodriguez and Sorensen, he could surprise them and come from behind with a big burst of speed and maybe take them. As we see, it's coming down to 14 seconds, so he's pulling it back slowly but surely, and I think he's going to run out of time, really run out of kilometres, and as I said, he's running up with 3Ks to go. That's where he will really pay the price, because the effort he's out here on his own. As you said, he's just time trialing into the wind the last 15 kilometres, and the two up front are sharing the pace. I think it means a lot at this stage in the race after being out there for so long. They went out there at I think it was about 12 kilometres into the stage, so it's been a long hard day for all of those riders, and especially it's 3 weeks of racing almost in their legs. Everybody is feeling tired.
Let's just get the time check. It was 12 seconds. It's coming up on the banner now. Still 12 seconds. Go on, boy. Get up there. Oh, I do love it when somebody has a completely hopeless task almost, and they just bury themselves trying to do it. And that's why I like riders like this guy. Garcia Acosta is a terrific rider. He gives it absolutely everything. Not far for these two guys now. They come under the 4 kilometre banner. You will see the wonderful medieval walls of Avila. Very, very shortly indeed. It's 1 kilometre all the way around. There's over 80 fortified turrets on it. And it really was a staging post for the push southwards by the Christian kings of the north to try and push the Moors out of Spain. 1090, I think it was 1090, something like that, where they conquered Avila. And Alfonso IV, I think, was the king. And Alfonso IV brought all the major knights, actually, from all of the northern kingdoms and shoved them in Avila and said, right, build me a great, huge fortress that'll be the envy of the world. And that's exactly what they did, and you'll see why in a minute. If you've ever been to Carcassonne in France and seen how wonderful that is, well, this is just as spectacular on a smaller scale, but it really is a fabulous finish. 3 kilometres to go then, and they're looking at each other now, and they're wondering just how far Garcia Acosta is behind. They're going to have to start thinking about who makes the attack soon. 8 seconds for Garcia Acosta. Oh, it's going to be mighty close. Surely Rodriguez is going to go on the attack soon, Sean.
Yes, I reckon so. He will, try and attack Sorensen, because he knows from the last climb of the day that when he attacked, he went away from Sorensen. So he has the advantage in that way, and I think he's the better climber. So he's definitely going to try and go in the attack, because if he takes Sorensen into the last 500 metres, which, it levels off in the last 700 metres to the finish, well, I think it'll be very difficult for Pascal Rodriguez to beat Sorensen in a 2-up sprint. Especially over big cobbles as well, because a man who's used to riding in the north of Europe, where he comes across those sort of situations occasionally, occasionally a bit more than probably Javier Rodriguez would, so a little bit more comfortable in a 2-up sprint over a short distance. But this guy's gonna make it across, I'm sure he is. Here we are. Look at these wonderful walls of Avila. This is the final slope down towards the town, and then they will hit the cobblestones very shortly. It's a tough old finish today. Beautiful, beautiful place to start and finish, and they come here so often. And Sean, just run us again through the last couple of kilometres, because you finished here in this town of Avila. They use it so often in the Vuelta. It's one of the perennial finishing places, isn't it? Yes, well, I think any moment now we should be going on to this cobble section, and it runs up for a bit, but then you come off the cobbles in the last couple of 100 metres. You come off the cobbles for a while, and if I remember rightly, I think just on the finish area as well, you get a little bit of section of cobbles, but not as difficult as the ones that are just going to go on to at the moment. As we see, Garcia Acosta is actually going to join up with the two leaders, Rodriguez and Sorensen, which is surprising, because it's going uphill the last 2 kilometres already, and I thought he would start suffering when he would hit the uphill, but he's worked really hard and managed to get back in and joined up with the 2 leaders. Well, you can only hope for him now, because it would be dreadful irony for him, isn't it, if he manages to catch them. They've hit the cobbles now, and they just leave him behind. Never count this man out, though, Garcia Acosta. He's a big, strong guy. He's won here before. He knows the finish. He knows what he has to do. He'll know where he attacked as well. He didn't attack at this point. He attacked with about 400 or about 200 to 300 metres to go until the gates last time. Javier Rodriguez and Nicky Sorensen, they're obviously worried about each other, but they're worried about him as well. They're looking over their shoulders. This is fantastic stuff under the walls of Avila. The 1 kilometre walls that run all the way around, 80 turrets. And what a scenic place to be finishing today, and I wouldn't like to be here in the rain. Actually, I've never seen a finish here in the rain, but there we go. Right in the heart of Castile, where the medieval Christian kings forced out. There he goes again. Garcia Acosta is given an attack just before we get to the gates. He's got about 800 metres to go before he gets to those gates. What a man.
You can't keep him down. I don't think he's going to stay away, but give him all credit for giving it a go, Sean.
Yes, well, certainly, yes. I'm surprised to see him go, because coming back, you know, just a little bit before that, I thought he would stay longer in the wheel and have a little bit more time to try and recover, and then when they get over the most difficult, try and take him by surprise when it gets a little bit easier. But no, he has a go here, and as we see, he's still on the cobbles, and Sorensen reacts quite quickly. Rodriguez, you know, quite calm there, just, you know, allowed Sorensen to have to ride, to do the ride, to close down on Acosta. And is Rodriguez suffering, I wonder?
I wonder too. Yeah, he looks like, well, possibly, but he's trying to react now to Nicky Sorensen, who's given it a go. He's ridden past Garcia Acosta, seen his the potential of jumping away and just catching Javier Rodriguez a little bit, and now he's really giving it everything he possibly can. Hands on the hoods, he'll be gripping them so hard. Rodriguez, who's going to try and get back to him, he's chasing very hard indeed. Garcia Acosta, brave attack that it was, is now out of it. And I think Rodriguez is just about going to eat up onto Nicky Sorensen very shortly. He's not been managed to shed him. Now it's going to come down to a 2-up. And the two of them are going to play cat and mouse, Sean.
Yes, they certainly are, and I think Rodriguez is suffering. We see him there trying to come back into the wheel of Sorensen. He seemed to be on the limit, and he's definitely going to stay in the wheel and make Sorensen lead this one from the front, and that's the only chance they have of beating him. And I think they're lucky that you know, Garcia Acosta has a lot.
Just to say the same thing.
Otherwise, he could take him by surprise.
Absolutely. Here they come into the finish. Rodriguez jumps. He's going to go. He hasn't got the power. He knows he hasn't got the power. Nicky Sorensen is going to take the victory, I'm sure. Rodriguez is trying again, but I'm sure Sorensen's got over a distance. Yeah, cooked, I think, is Rodriguez. He sits up. He's going to have to settle for second. And Nicky Sorensen, the man from CSC, the Dane, who's only taken one UCI win this year, way back in February, takes victory today in Avila. This man is cooked as well. And as you say, Sean, it was a very, very good thing that they managed to get the jump on Garcia Acosta that early, because, you know, I'd never put it past him coming back again.
Well, certainly if he had been closer and you know, able to just come back on him in the last 300 meters, he would, you know, come and take him by surprise. But he lost too much time after his attack. You know, he lost quite a big amount of seconds. We could see there he was out of sight really when we see R2 in the final shot coming into the finishing straight.
What a fine effort by Garcia Acosta to get back up to them at least. Here we are, let's have a look at the winner then today. Nicky Sorensen hit the front early. Javier Rodriguez always suffering. You can see he's having two minds about whether to go at it at all. Oscar Pereiro and Daniele Nardello coming in. Nardello takes fourth from Pereiro. Then Mario Arts, then Pablo Lastras over the line, just about 1 minute and 11 seconds down. They really made no impact at all on them. Gorka Gonzalez. He's the Euskaltel rider coming in for 1:23 down on the winner today. Great victory by Sorensen. They worked very well together. It was Javier Rodriguez who made the attack on Garcia Acosta up the Navamoral. And Nicky Sorensen worked hard to get over towards them. Well, who's being attacking on this piece of ground? Is that Carlos Sastre, I wonder? It's difficult to tell because of the bumping camera. Let's have a look.
Looks like a Lotto rider. Davidson Lotto. Of course, when they get on the cobblestones, those Belgians, they will go on the attack immediately.
It is indeed Davidson Lotto. It's Ardila. So not a Belgian at all, but riding for a Belgian team. Ardila's got to do something. He's never given up hope, has he? He's always giving it a real go.
You see Menchov here, you know, winding it up on the front again and trying to see can he eventually pull out some seconds before they finish the stage today.
Well, this is a good attack by Mancebo. How far down is Carlos Sastre? He's not anywhere near him at the moment. If he could keep this up, he could get a handful of seconds back. Remember, 51 seconds was the advantage. 1 kilometer he's got to do it in. And Mancebo got to give it absolutely everything over this last kilometre if he wants to pull out any seconds at all on Carlos Sastre, and that's a big gap, Sean.
Yeah, it is. There's the gap's appealing there, and he's, you know, going for it. He's going to just give it 100% right to the finish now and see, you know, what can he pull out. And he will pull out a number of seconds, and surprising, interesting to see what Sastre and Menchov and Heras, of course, will do on the climb. Are they to the front of the group, or are they a bit further back? Because on the cobblestones a bit special for some of those riders, and they don't like it. But Menchov definitely doing a great job here.
Fantastic job. We'll get the stopwatch on it for you as you see Francisco Mancebo giving it everything. Full beans, as they say. And right perched on the nose of that saddle. Real-time trialling stuff. Can that head go down any further? This is... there's Mancebo. There is Sastre behind. Well, I think they're trying to eat back up into it. Well, it's going to be a handful of seconds. That's about it. Sastre is at the back of that group. And we'll get the stopwatch on it as he wanted. Sean, he launched a very audacious attack, but it is going to be maybe 3 or 4 seconds, if that, for Francisco Mancebo. 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds is all he can take from Carlos Sastre. Ricardo coming over the line. Scarponi coming over the line as well. That's Standerwolde coming in. And Sonia de Valride is coming in en masse. Well, a beautiful finish today in Avila. Big crowds. You always get big crowds here. And this man, Nicky Sorensen, who has to take his opportunities when he can, because he works so hard for his team leaders. In this case, Carlos Sastre, but he'll also work for Ivan Basso or Jens Vogt or anybody else he's told to work for. Gets victory today from Javier Rodriguez.